Hello, I'm Andy King. I'm the technical editor of Good Woodworking magazine. Okay, so we're going to do a bit of basic freehand sharpening now. I tend to use, nowadays, one stone. I've only ever really stuck with one stone. Used to be, my old favourite was a Norton India stone. Nowadays, I stick with a diamond stone. Much easier to use, stays flat, no worries about oil, anywhere, that sort of stuff. Works a treat, nice and solid, brilliant. This is what I class as my national health stone. One does it all. You don't need to go private, you don't need to buy into big systems. This one here, double-sided, it's a trend one. Coarse on this side, fine on this side. Grit-wise, don't ask, I haven't got a clue. As long as it cuts, that's what counts. I tend to, on honing, it's only on the fine side. Stick it in one of these holders, it just makes life easier, gets it off the bench and stops it sliding around too much. So, again, this is diamond abrasive lapping fluid. Again, this is trend. Personally, you don't have to use that, I don't think. You can use anything you like. WD-40 is an old favourite of mine, always has been on stones, oil stones or diamonds. Of course, if you're caught short, spit. It's free, but bear in mind, anything you leave on there will rust it and take the diamonds back out. It's in a nickel plate, so you need to be aware that anything you leave on that stone has to be non-rusting if you leave it on. So it's always best to clean your stones when you're finished. Now, I freehand pretty well everything I ever hone nowadays. Always have done, always taught to do so. Honing guys are fantastic if you can't get on with freehand honing. For me, it's too much mucking around, to be perfectly honest. I can see the principles and I will use them sometimes, depending on what it is, on things such as rebate planes or shoulder planes where you've got no lateral adjustment on the blade itself, which means you can't skew the blade. It has to stay square. Therefore, what goes on the stone has to stay on the stone square. Freehand honing, you can sometimes overcompensate one side or the other and put the blade slightly out of whack. And that means then when you put it into the plane with no lateral adjustment, what you end up with then is a blade that's going to cut on a skew on the bottom. So that's about the only time I ever would use one. So for me, it's a very simple thing. A chisel, to me, I just lock into my fingers, like so. The blade sits at the back of my wrist. That sort of locks it all in. This is basically my driving arm. This one just supports it and moves it if I need to, and just acts as a guide. So it's onto the stone. So you find the bevel, which is 25 degrees in standard. Tendency is meant to be 30 degrees is a common angle. If I've ever hit 30 degrees, it's a miracle. I've been somewhere near it a few times maybe, but I just tend to pick up and think, right, okay, there's my angle. That's where I want to be. And it's just a matter of working it up and down a few times, just trying to keep it as consistent as possible. And all I'm trying to do is just raise that wire edge. And that's there already. You can feel it and you can see it just by running your finger across the back, with your thumb across the back. You can feel the burr already lifted, and it will actually start to build up the little dirt off the steel and off your thumb. It'll build up behind the burr on the back of the blade. You'll feel it and see it. So once you've got to that stage, you just turn it over, make sure it stays perfectly flat on. You want to be a good inch at least onto the stone. You don't want to be right back here. You don't want to go right over there. You want to be sort of halfway house really. So halfway across the stone, just to back it off. And that's it, just strike it off the back. As long as the back of your iron is flat, or certainly flat on the front edge there and just at the back, any hollows there, doesn't matter. As long as that's all polished off the back of there, that works the wire edge back over. You just reverse it back over and back over again. And all you're trying to do is weaken that burr enough so it just falls off. And the theory is, once it's gone, there should be nothing there, that should be sharp. Now you can see people who do this, which is stropping. You probably end up in casualty, so don't try it if you don't want to do that. Basically, to strop properly, if you get yourself a piece of leather on a board, some soap, honing soap, you can just give it a couple of quick drags on that. Put the back edge flat on, make sure it stays on flat. You don't want to lift it because you'll roll the edge. Keep it flat. That'll be enough there. Just wipe that away. So just put that to the test. And yes. So when you're working on plain irons, there's always a tendency for the outside edges to dig on any work. So a couple of things you often see done. One is you'll sometimes see the corners are filed away just to take those nicks out. That gives you still a straight, flat blade. But ideally, a very, very slight camber is what a lot of people tend to go for. Now again, freehand, it's not a problem. Again, locked in. Again, feel the bevel, hear it rock, pick it up, a couple of little strokes. Just get in the stroke of it, and then you apply pressure there first as you go on the upstroke, pull it back, pressure on this side, on the upstroke, and just alternate side to side as you do it. And all you're trying to do is just work a camber across the blade just by alternating the pressure from left to right as you do so. And what you'll find then is when you feel the burr, you'll feel you've got more either side than you have in the middle. And it's just a matter then of doing the same thing, backing off and just again, if you want to just give it that final little tweak, what you've got here is basically ultra fine cutting paste, and it just gives you that final little polish. You can use, if you've got a Tormek, the polishing compound you get in there for the leather wheel does the same thing. This is a DMT stone. This one is actually equivalent to 8,000 grit. That is a polishing stone. That to me is fine if you want it, but that is basically part of my armoury. That and that is all I ever need. The grit on this, who knows? Who cares? All I know is when I get it sharp, I can just do that. And if I can do that, I can cut wood normally, and that's what counts.